Hey everyone, welcome to my heavily edited AI blog case study. My name is Casey and I'm the founder of bloggingguide.com. In this video, I'll take you through the May 2024 income report of my arts and crafts niche site. In this section, I'll give you an overview of the domain. So I purchased the domain in January of 2023. It was a fresh domain, meaning it was not an expired domain. There were no backlinks. There had never been a site built on the domain. The actual site launched later that month in January of 2023. So that's when I actually started publishing the blog posts. The site was onboarded into Mediavine in February of 2024. This is 13 months in, which is on the quicker end for any site, but it was especially quick for this site because normally you need 50,000 sessions to get accepted into Mediavine. This site, though, was one of many that I had, and I had another site that was in Mediavine Pro. So I was able to onboard this site at 25,000 sessions. So I think that's important to note in the timeline here. As far as the topic of the site, it's pretty squarely in the arts and crafts niche. It's basically something that I like doing in my spare time. Was doing it before I blogged, and I'm sure I'll be doing it after. And part of why I decided to even do the site was since I already kind of had this hobby or passion, I knew I could easily take some photos. And even with the rise of AI content, as I would leverage myself, I knew that I could actually document things step by step. And that would be a big advantage and definitely give me a moat for at least the next few years. The site has about 500 posts. I didn't add any new posts this past month. Here you have the Mediavine earnings for this site, which is currently the only way this site is monetized. So this is the entirety of the earnings. You can see the previous 2 months, March and April, were right around $630 a month. This month was a bit lower at $411. I'll show you in the next slide basically what kind of happened on the traffic. But just to keep everything consistent, the total revenue this site has brought in since it was onboarded in February is now at $2,239. My running expenses up until this point have been just under $800. So that leaves me with a profit of $1,439. So again, this isn't like a cash machine, but the site is still performing well. And given that I haven't really touched it in 2 months because I've been busy with other projects, it's still doing pretty well. But as I explained, I do have some plans that I can hopefully implement next month, maybe see a boost in traffic, and hopefully the RPM will also go up seasonally. So this shows the Google Search Console graph so this is the performance for organic Google search over the past 3 months. The site does get some traffic from other sources, but it's not like some of my other case studies where it has a bunch of Bing traffic or social media. This is one that's pretty much like 90% at least Google organic search. So you can see it's pretty much steadily declined since the beginning of March. So I wouldn't say this site was hit per se during the March update because I have sites that were hit and they were a much more pronounced drop off at the beginning of March. This site has actually been a really slow decline. Um, it, I didn't even actually really notice until this month that it was in a decline. I would have said it was more basically just kind of flat in terms of the traffic, but it's a little bit lower. The good news is I do think I have some clue of what might have happened. Normally I'm on top of this a lot more, but one thing you should always keep an eye on, and I broke my own rule, was I should have focused very much on the number of pages indexed. So this is one of the most valuable things you can look at in Google Search Console, and there's lots of useful info in there. But even though it sounds like a simple thing, I was looking back today trying to diagnose what might have gone wrong, and over this period, almost exactly during this period, I steadily lost a number of pages. So there's probably 100 pages that in total are now not properly indexed, or there's some indexing error. So one thing, it's hard to say exactly why that is, but anytime you have a site that's relatively new, let's say under 2 years old, things like this can happen very easily. It's not like once you're in the SERPs, you'll forever stay there. Sometimes that happens, but a lot of times you'll notice this sort of like leaking effect. And normally I'm on top of this much more, but I've been, focused on so many other projects that because the traffic wasn't massively declining and I wasn't adding anything, I didn't really uh, keep my finger on the pulse as far as indexing goes. So that's basically what I think is going on here. I mean, the site, like I said, didn't have like a steep drop off. So I still think this site is salvageable. It is possible that it was affected. In some of my other sites in early May saw a drop that some people were unofficially calling some sort of update. I don't think that's really what happened here, because that's where it looks like the page loss was the greatest, was basically starting at the beginning of May. It's where like 60 of the pages were lost. So remains to be seen, but I'm obviously going to be resubmitting these manually through Google Search Console and using some of my indexing tools if that doesn't work. I have 4 main plans for this site to improve it or maintain it going forward. First, I'm going to start adding some new posts. So I haven't added any posts in the past 2-ish months. So it's kind of not surprising that the site hasn't seen any growth. But because it's slightly declining, I definitely want to make sure that I'm not leaving anything on the table. I think I did a good job covering a lot of the low hanging fruit, and that's how I was able to scale it so quickly. But there's definitely a lot of other queries that I missed on the first pass. I would say there's probably another total of at least 200 to 300 posts just in general that I could map out and plan. So I did not completely cover this topic in its entirety yet. Second thing is I'm going to prune some of the less productive posts. I've noticed that a few of the posts were actually ranking for the same query, which was not intentional. This partly is just a validation of my keyword research. It's showing that there's a vacuum in this space or topic. And basically, Google, if there's not a great source of information, they don't really have that much they can do. So they tend to pull from the same sites over and over. This, though, is not good for long-term stability, because obviously in a healthy set of SERPs, there'd be a fair amount of diversity. So I definitely don't want my rankings to be entirely propped up by that. So some of the posts might just be, it might be the titles, might be the meta descriptions. Maybe there's something on the on-page side of things that I can optimize, or in some cases, I can probably remove at least 10 or 20 of the posts. The third thing I want to do is build out the author's online reputation. Probably won't do a ton with this since I've already done the foundational links, but I can do some sort of creative backlink building strategies, like written interviews, things that don't take a lot of time, but are pretty high ROI. Luckily, this niche is not super competitive right now, but it could be in the future. And so I got to start on that process at some point. Fourth thing is I want to build a Facebook page, which I actually started this past month, but I quickly stopped after I started a Facebook like campaign. And it turned out that the likes were far more expensive for some reason than I initially projected. However, I'm not going to be deterred by that. I want to just see how, whether Facebook can be a viable traffic source long term for this. So I'm going to give that a shot again. I think before I may have targeted things a little too specifically. I really had a good focus on the audience because it kind of relates to another hobby of mine. So I was able to create like a very clear lookalike audience, but that might have come at the expense of these more expensive likes. And I want the page just to get to, let's say, 10,000 likes or something, some base level before, so that I can ensure that when I post content, it actually gets the full reach. So I'll probably have to broaden my parameters a bit. I hope you found this income report useful and picked up a few uh, tips or tricks that you can implement yourself. If you want to learn more, you can always check out my website, bloggingguide.com. And I also have a related Substack newsletter on there if you want to get even more tips. And be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. I'll be continuing to add more content like this, including other parallel case studies that I've been running. Thanks and have a great day.